Hello and welcome to Africa Today. I am Esther Amopariola. In an ever-changing world where developers continue to raise the stakes, African cities are evolving with skylines that give a cosmopolitan outlook to a colorful mix of people, places, structures and infrastructure. Lagos, one of Africa's largest cities and Nigeria's commercial capital, recently saw the other side of nature after torrential rains virtually transformed the island community into a residential lake, making the mainland look like a surviving island. And so we ask, what are your thoughts on the growing environmental and urban challenges in major cities across Africa, especially the coastal parts of Lagos, Nigeria? You can join the conversation and share your thoughts with us on Twitter at TVC Connect. Our report now to launch the program and Africa Today. We'll be right back. Welcome on board.
The Water Technology and Environmental Control Workshop coincides with the recent flash floods witnessed in some parts of Lagos. Environmentalists from Nigeria and beyond are eager to know what Lagos is doing to find a lasting solution to the flood menace. Commissioner for Waterfront Infrastructure Development, Ade Adesoya, said the torrential rains witnessed in the state in the past few days measured 477 millimeters, which equals rains experienced in other cities for 6 months. For Governor Ambode, this situation called for re-engineering of the drainage system in the state.
What we should immediately pursue is a holistic solution to what is certain to be a recurring problem. It must be a sincere collaboration between government and its citizenry. Here then lies the input of today's gathering. Israel, which Lagos State has decided to partner with in developing water technology and environmental control, is one of the first countries to successfully overcome its limitations in water resources. Our intention is to explore a wide array of technological advancements and possibilities to ensure that we obtain the best solution to a rather nagging problem. We will reinvigorate our campaign against the dumping of refuse by citizens into canals. We will be stronger in enforcing our fiscal planning laws, especially those building illegally on canals and blocking the free flow of water across the state.
On his part, Israeli ambassador to Nigeria, Guy Feldman, said his country was delighted to partner with Lagos to find lasting solutions to water management and environmental control.
I don't think we have a solution for everything, but we might have a lot of ideas with the ability and government of the state of Lagos going to Israel, picking up exactly the issues they want to deal with, and the innovation. Sometimes, as I told you, it's not so hard. Sometimes it's very simple. So we are going to work with that hand in hand with not, by the way, only Lagos State. We're trying to do it with all countries around the world, me specifically in Nigeria. But this mission going to Israel will come back, I think, with a basket full of innovation and ideas that can be fully implemented here.
Lagos is expected to participate in the WATEC exhibition in September and take full advantage of state-of-the-art technology in Israel, with an eyesore on applying same solution in the States.
Welcome back. Amidst the insatiable hunger to become the new Dubai of Africa, Lagos is said to be susceptible to the environmental impact of climate change and rapid urbanization. In recent years, the coastal areas of Lagos have been affected by massive flood and ocean surge along the beaches, where in some cases, parts of the mainland weren't spared. Now joining me in the studio on Africa Today, I have Dr. Lu Lu Gumi, a human settlement planning and development expert. Good to have you here on the program.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
And on Skype, I have Desmond Majer-Kodumi, a renowned environmentalist. Good to have you as well on the program, sir.
Great to be here.
Well, let's begin the show with you now, Doctor. What would you say is a major cause of flooding in some parts of Africa, particularly in Lagos, Nigeria?
The issues can be classified into two. There are the natural ones. There are the man-made ones. The natural one is the issue of climate change and rise in sea level relative to the land. The man-made is the blocking of drains and disobedience of physical planning laws, people building along drainage. So those are, in broad terms, and probably the third is lack of conscious commitment of government to really ensure that these drains are functioning. Those are the three broad areas in which I can classify this issue. You know, maybe as the discussion continues, we'll
go into it. All right, now, Desmond, I believe you just heard Dr. Lu Gumi, yes, his own point of view. What other areas would you say could have ravaged or caused the floods we have ravaged in other parts of the country recently?
Yeah, well, it's a basic symptom of our total lack of understanding of our connection with nature. And this applies not just to Lagosians, Nigerians, but to just mankind generally. We have to start to appreciate that we are a part of nature and not apart from nature. Then we won't start making the sort of mistakes and massive errors that we do make when it comes to sand filling a swampland, a wetland area. Wetlands have a vital role to play in the scheme of things. They're drainage areas, natural drainage areas. You know, and when you now just go and blatantly sand fill a natural drainage area without putting in place that which will replace what nature was doing, you're gonna have problems. And again, as your guest said, you know, the type of torrential rains that we've been having can be ascribed to climate change. It's a classic symptom of climate change. When you have a massive downpour, you know, 4 or 5 days rain falls in 4 or 5 hours, that's a symptom of climate change. Climate change is brought about by man's abuse of nature. We've got to start a paradigm shift, a total change of our attitude towards nature, and start caring for the creation, looking after the environment. And even in Lagos, or should I say, especially in Lagos.
All right, and if this is a man-made disaster, like you rightly put it, how much of a concern is this, and how long will it take for us to get things right at the right time?
Well, the immediate thing can happen straight away. You know, our drainage systems. We need to put far better drainage systems in place. We need to ensure that our drains are not used as dustbins. People need to be adequately enlightened. Alternative systems need to be put in place to take away the dirt and the waste and the refuse. This can be done immediately in case we have another heavy downpour. And then in the medium term, we need to start, you know, responsibly using the wetlands. If we're going to sand fill an area because you want to develop it, sand fill it scientifically, sand fill it in a way that will not cause a negative impact, that will not cause this type of blockage of natural drainage systems. Then, of course, in the long term, and we need to get the long-term one right, because if we don't, all the other efforts will be futile. We need to start changing climate change. We need to stop polluting the atmosphere, stop carbonizing this atmosphere that we have. We're pushing it to the limit, and we dare not go over the tipping point, or we shall all regret it, and our children shall certainly wonder what manner of parents were these.
Well, before we get to that devastating, or to that point that might not be too well a story to tell, let's look at this situation on ground. Look at some parts of Nigeria, Niger State in particular. Homes were destroyed and lives were lost. About 8, if not more, were killed because of the floods. Now, apart from this, the homes where they built their homes were on riverbanks. Now, would you say it is lack of awareness or ignorance, or the government, will I say, throwing the eye to the other side and not wanting to see if things are being done correctly before we have a situation like this on ground?
It's a combination of factors. First, a lot of our settlements grew, or developed and grew, without a physical development master plan. If after 180 years of existence, Ibadan is just trying to do a master plan for Ibadan, it means the place was just growing, people doing what they liked. And if they have been doing any semblance of physical planning, they've been doing it illegally, because there's not a physical development master plan against which the activities could be measured. And so the beginning is that most of our cities don't have a physical development master plan to guide its growth. If there has been, then some of these areas, adequate setback, the physical development master plan will have talked about the river, the setbacks to this river, and so there's something to monitor when people are building. But since there are no physical development master plan, there's nothing they want to gauge against. That's one. Two, I think even Nigerians are interesting people. What you should do with your sense, what you should do with data, what you should do with science, you start calling God into it. Oh, it's not my lot. I mean, you saw a river. You went to build a house 5 meters from the river bank. And someone said, this house can flood. I'll say, it's not my lot. I reject it in Christ's name. What's all this nonsense? Things that people should do with knowledge and science, they start calling God into it, which is irrelevant.
So in that case, it's their fault. That is purely their fault in that case.
Let me tell you my experience. I was born and brought up in Ibadan. In 1963, I was in Form 4. And there was this flood. I went out, go around the whole of the river bank of River Duana. In actual fact, I remember that's probably the only occasion my father beat me, because I didn't get back home until 11 p.m. And everybody was afraid, thinking that the flood has taken me over. Now, to exactly 20 years after, in 1982 or 83, the flood came back and went back to the river bank of Oduona as it was in 1963.
Quite an revelation there, but let me hold your thoughts for now, because we need to go on a very short break. You're watching Africa Today, and we have been looking at the growing environmental and urban challenges in major cities across Africa, especially the coastal parts of Lagos, Nigeria. Welcome back. Recently, the African Flood Drought Monitor predicted flooding in parts of the Sahel region, with major cities in Nigeria and other parts of West Africa experiencing high levels of floods in its destructive form. And some believe this projection is gradually becoming a reality as proactive measures by state authorities to repel the floods aren't in place. Now, Dr. Lu Gumi, you were giving us analysis, your experience so far.
My life experience. So then people went back to build. And in year 2003, another flood came. And that river took back its course. And so that brings us to the issue of nature that Desmond was talking about. We always think we are wiser than nature, but at the appropriate time, nature will take its place. So I was just saying that human beings too, they're very guilty about. Then some of the planning authorities too, you can't rule out that they left undone those things they ought to have done.
Quite true there. Now, Desmond, let's look at the issue of global warming. I understand that global warming, to an extent, might contribute to what we're experiencing in this part of Africa. What would you have to say about this?
Well, it's an alarm. When the alarm blows loud enough for the deaf to hear, you better take action. And as Doctor said, it's a manifestation of our disconnect with nature. I mean, the reality is that nature doesn't need man at all, whereas man needs nature for everything. So it's just common sense that we should take very good care of this commodity that supplies us with all our needs. And from time immemorial, and especially since the advent of the Industrial Revolution, we've been carbonizing the atmosphere so badly, we've taken it way beyond its natural limits, and it is now beginning to reflect that. It's beginning to hit back. So what we need to do, honestly, is get this consciousness in our mind. Every action, everything starts with a thought process. And we need to get that thought process in our mind. As the good doctor said, we need to readjust our relationship with nature. We need to have far more regard. We shouldn't think, because we have the ability to have some very fine, technological innovations like this machinery that we're using to communicate now, that, you know, we have power as such over nature. We don't. We have a limited control. But when it comes to the real exerting of the forces of nature, we are totally futile. We are very, very, very humble, but we're not behaving as if we're humble. And we need to have that humility in the face of nature and think about all these things. As you were saying, you know, if we're going to do developments, then do a complete study of that development. Do your impact environment assessment, your social impact assessment of the whole place before you start your development. Don't just think you can develop willy-nilly and nothing will happen. Nature is not like that. We need to work in harmony with nature. And luckily, in Nigeria has signed the Paris Accord Treaty, you know, which is going to fight climate change, along with 190 other countries. Apart from the fact that that one big country dropped out, that doesn't matter. Nigeria is on board with this, and this is very, very encouraging.
And talking about urban development now, the cities like Lagos is expanding. We have lots of people residing in Lagos, and we're having this problem. So do you say that the population expansion, the urbanization, so to speak, has a contributory role to what we're experiencing right now?
Oh, yes, yes. This sort of willy-nilly expansion of days gone by has to stop. This sort of expansion has to be very, very well coordinated, especially in a city like Lagos, which is classified as one of the most vulnerable cities to climate change. As Doctor said at the beginning of the program, you know, climate change bringing heavier rains, climate change rising the seas, which also includes the lagoon. Hey, we need to be very, very careful and be pragmatic. You know, this is a modern age. You know, when it comes to putting developments and building estates, it doesn't always have to necessarily be on sand-filled areas. You could have small estates on pylons, on the lagoon, which will have far less impact. You know, there's that ingenuity which we're gifted with. We need to use a lot more of that, but particularly we need to be very, very responsible in all our actions, bearing in mind that if we make the wrong actions, if we make these sort of mistakes, we could be responsible for the lives of hundreds of maybe thousands of people, and God forbid that this should be our portion. We need to be far more responsible and start to appreciate the enormity of governance, the responsibility of making decisions that affects millions of people. It's an awesome responsibility, and luckily we're seeing some reaction to that now.
All right.
The reaction in Lagos.
All right, now let me quickly get the thoughts of Dr. Lu Gumi on another situation, because the dredging, you know, of some parts of Lagos now, what we experience of recent, some environmentalists have said this would have contributed to the floods that we have right now. Particular concern is the recent project embarked upon by the Lagos state government. And well, in areas like Victoria Island and Ikoyi, it was said that a plan was put forward and the plan wasn't followed. So if we're having another project and it entails, well, dredging, like some have said, for this project to hold, how are we sure, are we certain that it will not be a repeat?
No, we should just do a proper environmental impact studies of all these things. That's all. There are scientific things to do, which wouldn't just behave like as if we are just the first set of people to have this type of coastal environment. We're not. Countries have always lived along the coast. They have survived. So we should learn from some of them and do things properly. That's all.
And what are the basic steps we're to take now if we're to prevent
another
reoccurrence? Because it's becoming an annual problem.
Yes. First, the natural one, which has got to start a sort of shore protection issues. But for the one that's called by the internal ones, let us clear the drains, let us make the drains functional, and let us have people who monitor the drains so that people don't pour waste into it, and we're home and dry.
All right, Desmond, your last words. What basic steps can we take to address these issues, such as this?
Yes, I think Doctor hit the nail right on the head. Let's monitor this thing very, very carefully and make sure that the measures that we're taking are salient measures. You know, don't block your drains. Drains are not waste bins. At the same time, let's take fighting climate change very, very seriously as well. Nigeria has ratified the treaty. We need to decarbonize our atmospheres. And so far, so good. We're very, very encouraged. Lagos responded very well. And we hope that that good response will continue in this way.
And what are the worst case scenarios and future projections on areas such as this one?
The worst case scenario?
Yes, for areas prone to floods. What are the worst case scenario and, well, perhaps future projections?
You don't even want to think about it. You don't even want to go down that road, because
why not?
It could be totally horrendous. We're so low, you know, we're low-lying land. We're very, very low-lying. A lot of Lagos is swamp. A lot of Lagos is lagoon. We need to protect our coasts very, 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 very much. And we need to be ensured that we're not going to aggravate this climate change monster. It's a monster. Even though, you know, the Americans are expressing some sort of disbelief. Well, you can express disbelief against gravity, but the reality is that gravity is affecting us all. Likewise, climate change is affecting us all, and we need to fight it. We need to do everything in our power.
All right, Desmond Maje-Kodunmi will appreciate your analysis on Africa Today. Thanks a lot. Now let's wrap up with you now, Dr. Lu Gumi Ajayi. So from what Desmond have said, I assume you agree?
Yes, I agree.
And what would you have to add to it?
Our government has to be a little more serious in terms of monitoring our drains. Because if the drains are blocked, there's nothing anybody can do. You cannot stop rain from falling.
And the canal, the drainage channels where structures have been built,
they should clear them.
It means
they should clear them. They should clear them. I mean,
but when you have people that have so much, you know, control of government, what do you do?
But the water is in their bedroom, so I mean, you don't tell people that. They've experienced it. So it's when you are talking theory that it's a different story. The reality has come on everybody. So don't let us. They will even plead with government to come and clear it.
And if we were to look at relocation now, would it put more strain on those communities now that hadn't suffered, you know, flooding?
Oh no, that's normal. People will move to higher land, and they're more flood-free areas.
Okay. But if we were to look at it from your own perspective as an environmentalist, what would be the short-term solution so that we cannot have, you know, a repeat of this in future?
No, the short-term solution is simple. Make sure get more drains, make sure the drains work, and start the real process of understanding and protecting the shorelines.
All right, let's leave it at that for now. Thanks a lot, Lu Gumi Ajayi, Human Settlement Planning and Development Expert. We appreciate your thoughts on the program.
Thank you.
Now, Africa finds itself in a critical situation where the environment is largely polluted, cities are densely populated, resources are degraded, and biodiversity is being disrupted to the point that the future of nature and urban life looks bleak. With the rainy season approaching its peak, a lot lies in the hands of people, government, town planners, city developers, and contractors in ensuring that there are more safe, smart, and sustainable cities on the continent. And that is our package for today. But don't forget to join the conversation as usual on Twitter at TVC Connect. And also follow me for updates around Africa at Esther TVC News. Until the next one, I am Esther Mokwariola, and always remember, this is Africa. Bye for now.